we will pay homage to the Buddha by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. So last week we have already talked about nimitta. It also mentioned there are 3 types of nimittas according to Visuddhimagga or Abhidhamma Sangaha. Then there are also some questions from meditators. Is there any reference for the nimitta from the Tipitaka or something like that? So here I have to give the short reference from Tipitaka. The first one is from Anguttara Nikaya, Book 3. We have one discourse named Nimitta Sutta. So there in that discourse, the Buddha explains the bhikkhus, a bhikkhu developing the mind to higher states, adhicitta, should attend the 3 things from time to time. This is the first introductions. After that, the Buddha talk about the nimitta. Alternatively, should attend to the sign of concentrations, samadhi nimitta. Also, the sign of exciting energy, bhakha nimitta, and the sign of equanimity, ubbekha nimitta. Is there any in the slides? So this is the first part, what the Buddha explained in Nimitta Sutta. So here we have to know about samadhi nimitta, we call sign of concentrations. Also, we have bhakha nimitta, sign of exciting energy, and also ubbekha nimitta, the sign of equanimity, according to the suttas. Then the Buddha also recommended his disciples, bhikkhus, if a bhikkhu, the bhikkhu developing the mind to higher states, he should attend only the sign of concentrations. The mind tends to become lazy, saja. So that means if our minds incline to only concentrations, if we cannot develop the bhakha nimitta, a certain energy, then it will be, we can become lazy. And bhikkhus, if a bhikkhu developing the mind to higher states, should intend to only the sign of a certain energy and a certain effort, the mind tends to become excited or distracted, uddhacca. As we have explained in our previous Dhamma talk, if we cannot balance 2 controlling faculties, especially concentration and energy efforts, then there will be instability of the mind. So here I mentioned when we have only a certain effort or making stronger efforts, then it will cause our mind excited and distracted. The Buddha reminds like that. Then again, the last part of the discourse. Because if bhikkhu developing the mind to higher states should attend to only the sign of equanimity, he does not become constricted for the distractions of mental intoxicants, asvakaya. So that means sign of equanimity. If we just do only sign of equanimity, we can balance our minds, but it does not become constricted for distractions of mental intoxicants. So briefly, we can understand that from time to time, we have to develop the sign of concentrations. In reality, the nimitta we call it is actually sign of concentration. Not only that, we also have another discourse, Patama Papanika Sutta, from Anguttara Nikaya, Book 3. They are mentioned, on account of 3 things, it is not possible that the bhikkhu should arouse meritorious thoughts that has not yet arisen or increased material thoughts that has already arisen. What are the three? In the morning, the bhikkhu does not plant his signs for concentration, samadhi nimitta, carefully, or in the midday, the bhikkhu does not plant his sign for concentration carefully. Even in the evening, the bhikkhu does not plant his sign for concentration carefully. So that is the instructions given in Anguttara Nikaya. So when we have sign of concentrations, we can arouse the meritorious thoughts that has not yet arisen, or increased meritorious thoughts that has already arisen. That is what we have to do. Actually, when we have a nimitta, sure, we have new merit. When we can attain jhana, there's also new merit that has never arisen before in this very life. Okay, now we have to go to the table, the three signs and bhavana. From time to time, people also ask me, what about jhana without nimitta? Actually, many people ask this kind of question. We can also attain jhana without nimitta. Actually, we don't have any source, any reference for that kind of instruction. So we have three kinds of nimitta. Parikama nimitta, as we have known in our previous Dhamma talk, we call preparatory or preliminary signs. Then Ukha nimitta, the learning sign, and Patibhaka nimitta, the counterpart sign. So when we have these three types of nimitta, then what will be the bhavana? Bhavana means the development of the achievement. In the Parikama nimitta and Ukha nimitta, we have only Parikama bhavana. The preliminary development of preliminary concentrations, which means not strong concentration yet. Then we have to talk about Patibhaka nimitta here. So sometimes people also ask, what is the difference between Ukha nimitta and Patibhaka nimitta? Very clear thing is, in Ukha nimitta, we cannot attain asset concentrations or absorption concentration. In Patibhaka nimitta, we can attain asset concentrations and absorption concentration. So here in Patibhaka nimitta, when we can have Patibhaka nimitta, there will be Upachara bhavana, the assets development, and Appana bhavana, the absorption development. So that means when we can have, or when we can obtain Patibhaka nimitta, when we reach Patibhaka nimitta, we can attain asset concentration or absorption concentration. So when we talk about Citta Visuddhi, the purification of mind, at least we must have Patibhaka nimitta. We must have asset concentration and absorption concentration. So here we have to know the difference between the nimittas. We will be the next slide, right? When the Patibhaka nimitta appears, the hindrances are subsided. So, which means only at the time of Patibhaka nimitta, our mind become very powerful. Then it can subside the hindrances. Then in the asset concentrations, the mind is well concentrated by the abandonment of hindrances. So here we have to remember this part. Only even in the asset concentration, we can abandon the hindrances because of the power of the concentration. Then in the absorption concentration, like in the first jhana or second jhana, third jhana like that, the mind is well concentrated by the manifestation of jhana factors. Here we have to know the jhana factors first. Sometimes people also misunderstand. When we can know the jhana factors, we can attain jhana. We have to understand that these are the working jhana factors. All these factors are working together to make our concentration stronger. They are not the object of jhana factors. We have to understand, the jhana factors are not the object of jhana. So we have to know one more thing. When we are entering into jhana, we have to know only the nimitta. Nimitta is the object of jhana. Jhana factors are not the object of jhana. We have to understand differently. So that means all the jhana factors are working together to know the nimitta. They will arise together with consciousness, according to Abhidhamma. Then they can support each other to make our concentration stronger, to subside the hindrances. Then they will keep knowing the nimitta. So that is called jhana factors. Then we have to continue the next part. When we attain jhana, we have to remember the 7 suitable and unsuitable conditions. So here, when we talk about the suitable conditions, I think many of people have known all these suitable conditions. From time to time, I have already talked about it. Which means when we can attain jhana, what are the conditions that can support our practice or our attainment? Sometimes when we regress our concentration, we can also know that which one make our mind weak or our concentration weak or regress. So 1, avasa. That means the abode or the dwelling place. So our residence is also important for us to have better concentration. When we have a good place, good residence, or our monastery is like a suitable for any weather, in the hot weather or in the cold weather, in any situations, then we can remember, right, which one is suitable. So sometimes, okay, how can we know that it's suitable or not? For example, living in one monastery or one living place. When we can develop our concentration, then we can understand that that monastery is suitable. So sometimes when we are in a monastery, we cannot concentrate very well. Our concentration decline or regress. At the time, we can understand that it is unsuitable monastery. Not only that, we can also understand many other things. For example, mindfulness. Living in one monastery, if we have good mindfulness, good awareness, that is a suitable monastery. If the living place is not suitable, we cannot concentrate well, we don't have good mindfulness or good awareness. So not only that, nimitta. Living in one monastery, our nimitta become powerful, which means the monastery is suitable. By living in one monastery, our nimitta become very weak. That means it is unsuitable. So we have to understand suitable place or unsuitable place according to our situations or our development. So actually, we have many stories about it. In Sri Lanka, we have one Samanera. He was going to disrobe. He requested his upachaya to allow him to disrobe. He was Samanera, that is why upachaya told him, okay, so please make one cave for me. After that, you can disrobe. This is his wish. Then the Samanera make cave. That means he has to dig, he have to carve the rock and he have to remove all the swines because bhikkhus are not allowed to dig the swines. So he dig everything, he make everything well. After that, he reported his teacher, Upajjhaya. So now I have already make a cave for you. Then the teacher asks him, okay, now you have made it. Then trying to meditate in that room for one night. This for you now, for one day. Next day, I will take over. The Samanera meditated in that cave. In that very night, he could attain headship. That means it's a suitable place for him. Similarly, we can understand in any situations or any kind of monasteries, whether it's suitable or not. By living in one place, if we can develop, sure, we can understand that is suitable place. Okay, now next one is a Gojara resort. When we talk about resort, that means the villages or the houses where we have to go for Pindapada, for alms rounds. So if the village is very far from the monastery, we have to take very long time to go to the village. Actually, we have already talked about it in our previous Dhamma talk, especially about Dutanga, how far from the monastery should be, so how far from the village should be a forest monastery, right? What kind of monastery is suitable? We have already talked about it. So that means here in this case, we have to know not very far from the village, which means we have to go for Pindapada. It will take very long time. There can be some disturbance in the village. Then, as long as we can get suitable food in the monasteries, it's okay. But sometimes we cannot get suitable food or enough food from the village or from that houses. It's not suitable, it's unsuitable place. So that means Gojara means for alms rounds, we have to consider is suitable or not. It can be for food, it can be for going here and there, right? For going for alms rounds. Then 3, basa, speech. We can also say talk. So what is really suitable conversation when we are meditating? So here we have to know something about speech. Actually, we have already explained before. For example, talk about contentment, talk about pureness of wishes, talk about morality, talk about concentration, talk about wisdom, talk about exerting energy or something like that. All these things are suitable for meditator. It can be supporting cause of improvement. Then, when we have other types of conversation, for example, talk about like politics, about the king, about the, like for example, water, food, many other things, right? Then if we talk all these things like that, when we are going to meditate, it can distract our mind. That is why we have to avoid this kind of conversations when we are meditating. Here, when we talk about basa, speech, although we say, talk about concentration, right? This is suitable conversation, suitable speech. But sometimes, if we talk about the meditation subject too much, then we get confused. You may have known our library in Paotoya, right? We have many books from many different traditions. In English, in Burmese, in Chinese, in Vietnamese, in Cambodia, in Thailand, in Thai. We have many different books about Dhamma. when they read, although they are reading something about anapanasati, the different idea, different approach, after reading many books, they get confused. So I have to remind them, make it simple, try to know breathing normally. So although we speak many different things about anapanasati, this is also our subjects, but not all the conversations are suitable for us. If the topic make us confused, we should avoid that kind of conversation, that kind of talk. Similarly, morality, some kind of conversations where some kind of conversations are very close to the offense, right? So then we have to avoid this kind of conversation. Anyway, so sometimes speech or the conversation also make our concentration weak. Sometimes if we have good conversations, it can encouraging conversations, then we can develop our concentration. Then 4, Pugala, person. In this case, we have many different types of Dhamma friends. So there are some Dhamma friends, they will help us to improve. There are also some Dhamma friends, they will disturb us, not to improve. So that means if we have good friends who can guide them, or who can help, or who can guide us, or who can guide us, that means this is, we can say, suitable person, suitable Pugala. Otherwise, we cannot improve. It's just a problem maker, right? When we have this kind of friends, we cannot improve anymore. So sometimes, in the community, only one bad bhikkhu live in the big community. One bhikkhu also can disturb many good bhikkhus. Similarly, one bad meditator can disturb many good meditators. That is why if we have only bad friends, or only one bad bhikkhus or bad friends, is really bad enough to disturb us. When we have many good friends, sure, it's not enough yet, right? There are some meditators, they can help us, they can support us, they can guide us. We need many good friends. Then if we are in a good community, we can practice well. So that's why Pugala is also important. Otherwise, Bhojana, the 5, Bhojana. Bhojana means the foods. We have different preference. We have different favorite foods, right? But sometimes, although we like the foods, but it's not suitable for us to develop. So for example, now coffee, for example, right? Coffee, sure, is it really very good for mind? Eh? Our mind will be active. But at night, if we cannot sleep well, we should not take coffee. Similarly, we have many other types of drink, such as Red Bull, or we may have now like a sponsor or some types of drink, soft drink. So some of the drinks are not really suitable for meditators. Similarly, about the foods. So if we take some foods, we'll get drowsy, we cannot concentrate very well. There's some kind of foods, then they will make us too much active. Then also too much exciting, we cannot take that kind of foods. Anyway, so there are many different types of foods. By taking some foods, it will make us healthy. It will make our mind calm. We can get good nutrients. So according to our situations, we have to take the foods. Then it depends on our health, right? When we are healthy, we can take any food, it doesn't matter. When we are unhealthy, we have to find suitable food for us. So anyway, the main thing is by taking some kind of foods, if we can concentrate well, this is suitable. By taking some foods, if we cannot concentrate anymore, that is unsuitable food. Then 6, Udu, the climate. So at the time of the Buddha, the climate is out of our control, right? But now in modern day, we have air condition. But the problem is the air condition is noisy. We have fan, air cooler, many equipment, many facility that can make the weather good. But now the problem is they make noise. Anyway, so if we are living in a good place with good weather, we can develop easily. If we have bad weather, we cannot concentrate very well. Many of meditators who has been to Pa'ao may know the summer in Myanmar, right? It's really very terrible. Too hot, very hot. Mostly at the time, many meditators say, Bandi, I cannot concentrate well, too hot. You know, they have only that complaint. I cannot help them also. But this is the weather out of my control. Anyway, the main thing is the climate or the weather, cold weather, hot weather, it depends on our health conditions. So by living in one place, having one weather, if we can improve our concentration, that's a good weather, suitable weather. If we don't have concentrations, just decreasing or regressing, we have to consider that's unsuitable weather. Also, we have to avoid that kind of place and that kind of weather. But now, what about weather? If too cold, it doesn't matter, right? We can wear many different layers of clothes. We can make it warm, it doesn't matter. We can make fire, it doesn't matter. Only the hot weather is the problem, right? Okay, this is 6. The last one is the Idiapata. This one called posture or the deportment. So for about the posture, Visuddhimagga recommended. If you wish to know which posture is the most suitable, you should try 3 days in one posture. You mentioned 3 days, right? In one posture, 3 days. So not that easy, right? So within 3 days, if we can improve, that is a suitable posture. If we cannot improve, it's an unsuitable posture. So that means sometimes some meditator also told me, Bandi, lying down posture is much better. I don't recommend lying down posture. It's too relaxed, right? If we relax too much, our efforts become very weak. We cannot maintain concentration. So here we have to explain something. That is it. Standing and walking. When we are walking and standing, we have to put extra efforts to balance our body. At the time, effort is stronger, concentration is weaker. So when we sit down, we can balance concentration and effort more. So when we lie down, less effort. You know, we can concentrate well, sure. We have less effort because too relaxed. Then I don't recommend lying down posture. Anyway, so now when we have attained asset concentrations or absorption concentration, we have to remember why we have this kind of concentrations or what are the supporting causes. Now we have 7 suitable conditions, unsuitable conditions. Not only that, sometimes when we regress, that means our concentration become weaker and weaker. we have to remember what are unsuitable situations that make our concentration weaker. If we can remember that, we can change easily, then it will be easier and easier to maintain our concentration. And it will be easier for us to develop our concentration. So now, these are the supporting conditions for the developing concentrations. So now, we have to continue, right? So, Dasavita Apanakosala, the 10 kinds of skill in absorption. Actually, this part is really, really very wide. We have to explain very much in detail. So previously, when we talk about nimitta, we also have said, after when we have Patibhaka nimitta, we can attain asset concentration and absorption concentration. Then we have to know how to maintain that concentration. So the first part, we have to know 7 suitable conditions or unsuitable conditions. The next one is Dasavita Apanakosala, the 10 kinds of skill in absorption. What are the skills? 1, Vatu Visara Kiriyado, making the basis clean. That means we have internal basis and external basis. Internal basis means like a washing or maybe taking the bath, or right? We have to make our body clean. If we have very long hair, shave, long fingernails, the toenails, cut everything, make our body clean and fresh. Externally, we have to make our room, meditation place clean. This is called Vatu Visara Kiriyado. 2, Indriya Samatha Paripadanato, maintaining balanced faculties. So here in this part, we have to explain a few different things about controlling faculties. So in my notes, I have already mentioned faith and wisdom should be balanced. This is the common explanations we have to know. But in reality, if one of them becomes very strong and powerful and excessive, the rest of controlling faculties cannot work their functions. They cannot work together. That means they cannot work properly. It will be the problem. So even in our previous talk, we have already explained faith is strong, wisdom is weak. When that then happens, because of stronger faith, we may believe many wrong things. The faith can mislead us. Sometimes when we have very strong wisdom, but very weak faith, that we will be wicked, dishonest. That is why it's also necessary to balance these two. The next one is concentration and energy should be balanced. Actually, I have already explained this one also. When concentration becomes powerful, that when energy becomes weak, then we may fall asleep, or we may fall into bhavanga states, or like unconscious states, unknowingly thoughts. Sometimes when we have very strong energy, but weak concentration. At the time, because of stronger energy, we may have many restlessness in the meditation. Although we have thoughts, we know it, we cannot avoid it, we cannot overcome it. That means we have excessive efforts. We also understand effort becomes stronger, concentration becomes weaker. As long as we can maintain our concentration, our meditation subject, we should not put any extra efforts. If we make extra efforts, it will cause restlessness. Then next one is that mindfulness is always needed. I think everybody has known that mindfulness is essential anywhere, anytime, in any situation. When we are mindful, sure, we can be successful. We can be better person. We can be stronger person. So even without meditation, we must have awareness or mindfulness. Okay, now at the end, I also had mentioned if one of the faculty is excessive or weak, the rest of faculties cannot function well. We have to remember this part. In reality, we have to balance all the 5. Right? I have said mindfulness always needed, right? So we have to balance everything. If we cannot balance well, then we cannot maintain our concentration. We cannot maintain our jhana. That is why among the key in absorption states, we have number 2, maintaining balanced controlling faculty. 3, nimitta kosala do, ski in signs, in the sign. So this one is a really very a little explanation about nimitta kusala or nimitta kosala. Sometimes we also use nimitta kosalas. We can find this content in the sub-commentary. Karana kosala, ski in making. So that means we can make the nimitta. For example, in the sense of Kasina, you have already learned that one. We have to prepare meditation subjects properly. We have to know how we have to be skillful in making Kasina objects. Not only that, we have to be skillful in taking nimitta as an object also. Then bhavana kosala, skill in developing. So that means we also have to know how to develop the nimitta. Then the last one, rakkhana kosala, skill in maintaining. This is the most important. If we cannot maintain, focusing on the nimitta, we may have many difficulties to develop or to maintain our concentration. Sometimes if we are not very skillful in rakkhana kosala, our concentration will become weaker and weaker. So in the case of nimitta kusala do, in this context, the last one is the ski in signs. So that means now here number 3, nimitta kosala do. In this according to this statement, the last one, rakkhana kosala is necessary. Okay, which means nimitta kusala means maintaining skill. We have to be skillful in maintaining. So again, we have 4. Yasmin samaye chitam baghe tabam dasmin samaye chitam bakanati. He exerted the mind on an occasion when it should be exerted. So here I have given one note. By developing the enlightenment factors of investigation, energy, and rapture, we can exert our minds. So here, in this case, sometimes when we are lazy or when our mind becomes very weak or unwilling to meditate, we have to develop these 3 enlightenment factors. So later I have to explain how to develop enlightenment factors in detail. This is just introduction. Then again here, Yasmin Samaye, number 5, right? 5 again, may I mention? So Yasmin Samaye, Chitam, Daban doesn't mean Samaye Jitan, Nikanati. Here I just make blank, right? The full body word is doesn't mean Samaye Jitan, Daban doesn't mean Samaye Jitan, Nikanati. He restrains the mind on an occasion when it should be restrained. So by here, restraining by developing tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. That means by developing the enlightenment factor of enlightenment factor of tranquility, concentration, and equanimity, we can restrain our minds. So, which means sometimes our minds become very much active. If too active, it also causes restlessness, elation. That is why we have to develop these enlightenment factors, the enlightenment factor of tranquility, concentration, and equanimity. So 5. 6. This one 6. Yasmin Samaye, Jitan, Sambahansita Ban. That means Samaye, Jitan, Sambahansiti. He encourages his mind on an occasion when it should be encouraged. So sometimes we have no more confidence, right? No more mind power. So mind is really, really zero. When we have this kind of things, this kind of situation, we have to encourage ourselves by reviewing the 8 grounds of sense of urgency. So when we talk about this one, right, the sense of urgency, okay, for example, about rebirth. This is also suffering, right? We have to rebirth, we have to be reborn lives. That's also one of the grounds for sense of urgency. Similarly, aging. When we grow up, our body also not so strong as before. Also, the ground for sense of urgency. Death. When we pass away, sure, this is the last time of our life. This is also suffering. We have to reflect or review. Not only that, we may have suffering in this very life, suffering in the past lives, suffering in samsara. Especially suffering in this very life, we can reflect. We have a lot of suffering in this very life. Everybody has already suffered from many different things. The main thing is about the foods. We have to suffer for our foods, our livings, and our health, right? Our lifestyles. So that means this is also suffering. So if we are very bad in the samsara, we have to be reborn in a bad destination. We have to suffer more. So, okay, briefly, we can understand that by reviewing the 8 grounds of sense of urgency, we can develop, we can encourage our minds to have stronger faith, stronger confidence, and also more willingness, more mind power. This is also necessary. So sometimes when our mind becomes very weak, we cannot concentrate well, then no more concentrations, no more jhana. Okay, now 7. It means samaye, chitan echubakitaban, that means samaye echubakati. So he looks on at the mind with equanimity when it should be looked on at the mind with equanimity. So here in this case or in this situation, so we have to know one more thing about faculties. Sometimes we can balance everything. Our practice is really, really good. Time with equanimity. Don't struggle anymore. We have one simile mentioned in the text. Chariot is driving a chariot drawn by two horses. When the two horses are running normally, or they are running evenly, the charioteer does not need to struggle. Just wait and watch them running. If one of them is walking normally or running up to something improper, it's the time to control that horse. Now here, in the sense of equanimity, having equanimity when we have to train our skill in absorption, which means we have to wait and watch normally when we have very good situations or good balances in practice. So 8, okay, next one, the 8, number 8. Asmahita Bogala Parivachana Do, avoidance of unconstricted persons. So this is also important in our practice. So you may know that if we don't have concentrations, we cannot understand those who have concentration, right? We cannot know how they feel or what they need when they are meditating. When we ourselves have very good concentrations, we can understand that how we can help other people. That is why we have to avoid the people who does not have any concentration. The 9. Samahita Bugala Sevanato, cultivations of constricted persons, which means we have to associate with constricted persons. When we have good friends, good associations, they can help us. Sometimes we can also emulate how they practice. We can also discuss what to do and how to do when we are meditating. That's why good associations are necessary in any situations. 10. Tadati Motato, resoluteness upon that concentrations. That means we have to determine, or we have to bear in our minds that we should develop concentration in any situations or any conditions, anywhere, anytime. So these are the 10 skills in absorptions. But here I have already skipped many parts, especially about developing the enlightenment fetters. So now I will introduce the first part of enlightenment fetters. So developing the enlightenment fetters. We have 7 enlightenment fetters, as you have known. Sati Sambojjhanga. Okay, we have 7 enlightenment fetters. Sati Sambojjhanga, the enlightenment fetter of mindfulness. Dhammavijaya Sambojjhanga, the enlightenment fetter of investigation. Viriya Sambojjhanga, the enlightenment fetter of effort. Then Piti Sambojjhanga, the enlightenment fetter of rapture. Passaddhi Sambojjhanga, the enlightenment fetter of tranquility. Samadhi Sambojjhanga, the enlightenment fetter of concentrations. Then Ubhakkhaya Sambojjhanga, the enlightenment fetter of equanimity, right? So I have to explain all the enlightenment fetters orderly. Now the first part, we have to explain the enlightenment fetter of mindfulness. They mentioned 4 things lead to the arising of the enlightenment fetter of mindfulness. Sati Sambhajanya. 1. Sati Sambhajanya. Having mindfulness and clear comprehension. Actually, we have to explain clear comprehension later also. But anyway, here also I have to introduce clear comprehension briefly. So when we talk about mindfulness, from time to time, we can also know the Pali word Sati Sambhajanya. This compound noun, no? Sati Sambhajanya. Sati means mindfulness, Sambhajanya means clear comprehension. There are very many other translations. Okay, now when we talk about Sambhajanya, we have 4 types of Sambhajanya. The first one is Sataka Sambhajanya. That means the beneficial. So we have to know is beneficial or not. Beneficial or not. Although we go to the pagoda, if too crowded, then it will make our concentration weak, right? So going somewhere, we have to know is it suitable or not. Similarly, living in one place, we have to know is suitable or not. When we listen to the Dhamma Talk also, we have to understand is suitable or not. That's called Sambhajanya. Similarly, when we go and see the corpse, dead body, we have to know is it suitable or not. So okay, the main thing is, what about then we are doing? We have to know is it suitable or not, beneficial or not. If beneficial, we can do it. Okay, sorry. Sadaka is not suitable. Sadaka means beneficial, sorry. Sadaka means beneficial. We have to know is it beneficial or not. We have to know that one first. Similarly, sapaya, suitable. So is suitable or not? Suitable time, suitable place, we have to know. This is also called Sambhajanya. As I have said before, although we go to the pagoda, if too crowded, right, then we cannot concentrate well. We have to avoid many people to go to the pagoda. Then it will make our concentration weak. It's unsuitable. Similarly, admonishments. Listening to the admonishments, seeing the cause, right? We have to know it's suitable or not. Next one is a Gochara Sambhajanya. That means Gochara means here meditation subjects. Previously, when we talk about Gochara, they mean results or domain. Here we have to talk about objects. Meditation subjects. We have to know that is meditation subject suitable or not. Not only that, have a meditation subject everywhere, in any situations or any time. If we are together with meditation subjects, we can say this also Gochara Sambhajanya. So especially when we are going for Pindapata or something like that. Okay, the last one is the Asamoha Sambhajanya. Asamoha Sambhajanya means also the same, practicing in any posture, in any time, then meditating any time. This is called Asamoha Sambhajanya. Then always mindful, we can say like this. This is called Sambhajanya. We can say 4 types of Sambhajanya, right? So when we have Sambhajanya and mindfulness, that's also the way to develop the mindfulness. Sati Sambhajanya. Then 2, Mota Sati Bugala Pariwajana. The avoidance of person with confused minds. So, which means if they don't have mindfulness, or if somebody does not have mindfulness, we should not associate with them too much. If we associate with them, our mind will become weak, our concentration will become weak, our mindfulness will become weak. As we have talked about it in our previous topic, right? Ski and absorption. Now again 3, Ubatita Sati Bukala Sevana. association with persons who keep mindfulness ready for application. That means those who keep mindfulness, his mind always applying to the objects. This is called Upatita Sati Pogala Sevana. So briefly, we can understand that we must associate with mindful persons. We must not associate with restless person. Then 4, Tatati Motata, inclination towards mindfulness in any posture. That means we must bear in our mind that we must have mindfulness in any situation, in any posture. So these 4 are the way to develop the mindfulness of the enlightenment factors of mindfulness. Then again, we have Dhammavicaya Sambhojjhanga. It will be the last topic for today. Firstly, I have to explain something about investigation. Investigation is similar to wisdom. In Pali, we also call panya. So here, 7 things leads to the arising of this enlightenment factor of investigation. So when we talk about investigations, this also includes wisdom. So 1, Paripuchakata, inquiring about the aggregates, basics, elements, faculties, powers, enlightenment factors, noble paths, samatha, and vipassana. Although we have many questions, but some of the questions are not for our development, just for knowledge. You may know how I answer whenever people ask about Nibbana in Paudoya, you know? Sometimes some meditator asks me, Bandi, what is Nibbana? How is Nibbana? They ask many questions about Nibbana. I just told them, you know, just trying to know the breathing more. Don't think about Nibbana, it's very far from you. We have to start with mindfulness, focus on the breath. Sometimes we think about very far away from our practice. We ask many different unnecessary questions about our practice. Then it will make us confused. So here, Paripuchakata, it mentioned inquiring about the aggregates. For example, when we are practicing vipassana, we have to know the 5 aggregates. In these situations, what are 5 aggregates? In this case, what are the 5 aggregates? We can ask. Similarly, 12 bases, 18 elements, 5 faculties or 22 faculties, 5 powers, 7 enlightenment factors, noble paths. Noble Eightfold Paths, we can say like that, right? Noble Eightfold Paths. And also samatha. When we are practicing samatha, we can ask questions about samathas. Vipassana. When we are practicing vipassana, we can ask about vipassana. So that means if we can ask properly, if we inquire properly, we can develop the enlightenment factor of investigation. So here, what do Visuddha Kiriya purifications of basis? Actually, I have already explained this one in the ski in absorption. Indriya Samatha Paripadana. This one also already explains in Jensky in absorption. Imparting evenness to the 5 spiritual controlling faculties. That means balancing controlling faculties or maintain balanced controlling faculties. Maintaining balanced controlling faculties. Then 4. Dupanya Bogala Pariwachana. Dupanya Bogala means avoiding of ignorance. So sometimes we can see many people with ignorance, right? So if we have very strong ignorance, we don't wish to know truth, then it becomes a very big problem. Then again, sometimes, although we are knowledgeable, we want to explain something, truth, they are not ready to accept the truth. So ignorance is a really very bad. Then we cannot aware who we are, what we are doing, or what will be our future, right? Everything is really full of uncertainty. When we have ignorance, it will get worse. Then again, 5, okay. Panya Wanda Pugala Sevana, associating with the wise. Now, how can we say the wise? In this context, what is the meaning of the wise? So one more thing here we have to know, according to the context. It mentioned there are 50 ways of discerning 5 methods in arising and perishing knowledge. So we have already known the causal relationship. For example, there are 5 past causes for material aggregates, immaterial aggregates, right? Then we have to discern cause-effect relationship. We also have to discern their arising and their perishing. For example, in the case of Rupa Khanda, which in the past is the cause, the Kamacha Rupas in this very life is the effects, which is also anicca. Kamacha Rupa are also anicca, like that. Similarly, Tanha, Uparana, Sankhara, Kama, cause and effect relationship. So in the Rupa Khanda, there will be 5 ways of discernment in arising stage. In Vedana Khanda, also 5 ways of discernment. Altogether, in the arising state, there are 25 ways of discernment in Udavaya Jnana. Similarly, in the perishing state, it can be 25. Altogether, 50 ways of discerning 5 aggregates. So if somebody has already practiced or somebody knows how to practice 50 ways of discerning arising and perishings of aggregates, he's called wise, according to the Pali text in this context. So yeah, Panya Wanta Pogala Sevana means we have to find this kind of person who know how to practice Udavaya Jnana. If we find the ones, we can associate. This is called wise person. Now, the 6th, right? Gambira Jnana Chariya Bachavakana. Reflecting on the profound differences of how to perceive process of aggregates, modes, or elements, sense spaces, and so forth. So here we also have to know the Tatimota, right? Sorry, Gambira Jnanacharya. So when we talk about Gambira Jnana, that means profound dhammas, profound knowledge, we can say like that, right? So there are many different profundity of Dhamma, for example, like aggregates. Actually, there are many things we have to know about aggregates. So if we can know the aggregates very well, sure, we can practice Vipassana very well. It is also necessary to know the profundity of all the Dhamma. Then we also have to reflect on the profound difference of the hard to perceive processes, especially like aggregates, elements, sense space, and so forth. So this is our Kamina Nyara Vajrakana. So that reflection is enough for beginners. It will be for advanced meditator. Then again, the last one, Tadadimodada. The inclining, sloping or bending towards the development of enlightenment factors or investigations of mental objects. So this is also important. That means we must bear in mind, or we must have inclination to develop the enlightenment factors of investigation anytime in any situation. So today, this is the last part of Dhamma Talk. Anyway, so there are many things we have to know about jhana. So after attaining jhana, what we have to do? The first part, we have already said, seven suitable or unsuitable situations. Then after that, we have the next one, 10 ski and absorptions. So now, among the 10 ski and absorptions, it also mentioned from time to time we have to uplift our mind, or we have to support our minds. So when we are going to talk about it, we also have to know the enlightenment factors. That's why we started the first part, especially when our minds become very, very weak or lazy or inactive or sluggish. We can develop the enlightenment factor of investigation. That is also the thing we should know. In our previous talk, we have already explained when we are lazy or sluggish or dull too much, we have to develop the enlightenment factor of viriya, efforts, Dhammavicaya Sambhojjhanga, investigations, and also piti, rapture. So now this is the first part of developing enlightenment factors. So next week we will continue the next enlightenment factor until we finish all the 7. If I'm gonna finish next week, we have to move to next week, right? It will be a little bit longer time to explain all the enlightenment factors. Recently, I have already explained 7 enlightenment factors to Indonesia devotees, according to Bojjhanga Sutta. But now here I will summarize how to develop the enlightenment factors briefly. Okay, so may you all be able to practice the Buddha's teaching, and may you all be able to realize the inner suffering as soon as possible.
Yes, Sayadaw, for delusion type of person, how to be able to help them arouse interest in practicing the Dhamma if they always fall asleep during meditation and Dhamma talks? Or is there nothing we can do to help except to wait for the time to be ripened for them to learn the Dhamma?
Okay, now in this case, when they have sense of urgency, it will be possible to meditate. Otherwise, the interest. So that means as long as they don't have any taste of meditation, they are not interested in meditation. When they have experienced something new or some good information or good experience in meditation, then they will be interested in meditation. So that means, okay, briefly, if I answer these questions, so just trying to explain that what's the benefits of meditation in daily life, practically for their life. It will be easier to have them. If we talk about Buddha teaching too much, they are not interested in it. All right? Okay, next one.
Wandami Sayadaw. This is a question regarding the object of Nibbana. It says, Nama Rupa. The perishing of Nama Rupa is Nibbana, but Nibbana's object, Nibbana as an object does not mean the perishing of Nama Rupa. So, how if a bhikkhu wish to enter into Nibbana and take Nibbana as object, but at the same time, Nibbana is not the complete perishing cessation of Nama Rupa, but at the same time, entering to Nibbana also is not taking sunyata as object. So how to understand this statement of taking Nibbana as object?
Even questions are very messy, right? Okay. Actually, Nibbana is a cessation of Nama Rupa. In Nibbana, there's a no Nama, no Rupa, right? There's a cessation of Nama Rupa. So that means, okay, we can let's say only peacefulness. Okay, only peacefulness, no Nama, no Rupa. We just know the cessations of Nama Rupa. It doesn't mean we don't know anything, right? Our mind must know the cessations of Nama Rupa. That's called Nibbana, the knowing Nibbana. Actually, I don't want to answer this kind of question. It's very messy also, right? Very far from practical practice.
Panami đó, ra con bạch ngài sơ đó khi hành thiền thì nên mở mắt hay nhắm mắt lại trong khi in niệm xứ là gì? Có câu ngồi kiết già. Vanami said đó, when meditate, should I open the eye or close the eye? And I read somewhere in the sutta, Masatipatthana Sutta, the Buddha say we need to sit cross-legged and straight back, and also keep the mindfulness in front of the face. Một niệm trước mặt cho con hiểu. So how should I understand about this in this context at all?
Okay. So for about practicing, you should close your eyes. It will be easier for us because we have to close all the sense doors. Open only mind door to know the objects, right? This is very clear. What about the statement you mentioned, sitting cross legs? Okay, you can sit cross legs. It doesn't matter. Now, what about keeping straight body? So you have to keep your head and body straight. This is normal, right? In Pali, we just say Ujjongkaya Panidaya. The body should be straight. Then Parimukha sitting Tapetawa, that one mentioned like a focusing should be around the nostril. When we talk about Parimukha sitting, Parimukha means here we have to know two different things. One is around the face or around the nose. Right? We call Mukha Nimitta or Nasikaka. That means it should be around the nostril or upper lip. We can say like that. For about the Anapanasati. When we talk about Kasina, it should be around the face. Right? So it depends on the object we take. So in brief, in this in the context you mentioned in the Satipatthana Sutta, keeps your body and has traits. You can keep cross legs, close eyes, trying to focus around the nostril or around the face. It depends on the object. Okay?
Ondami Siado, for example, when practicing Anapanasati, how do we practice Sati Sampajanya? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, as long as we can know the Anapana in any time, any situations, anywhere, then we also have Samajanya. We call Asamoha Samajanya, right? We have to know the breathing everywhere. This is called Asamoha Samajanya.
Ondami Siado. Sitan, at the Upachara Samadhi of fourth jhana, would they be breath? Still have breath or not? Or would there be sound? Can sound be heard at the Upachara Samadhi of fourth jhana? And also, Upachara Samadhi of fourth jhana, when it arises, would they consider Rupa jhana viti? Or at that times can sound be heard?
Actually, when we are talking about jhana, we have to talk about only nimitta, right? If we hear this is a like sensual objects, also ear dominant process. When we are talking about jhana, it must be mind dominant process. That's why we must not hear anything. For our asset concentration also, when we talk about asset concentration, our mind must know the nimitta. If we know the sound, this is another object already, we're going to say is asset concentration. For about breathing, okay, I'm not sure about breathing. Maybe in the fourth jhana, we can find that the thoughts again. But now we haven't talked about even the first jhana, right? We just talk about nimitta and ski and nimitta. Even we haven't explained first jhana yet. Okay, later we'll explain that one.
About the 5 indriya, 5 faculties, why saddha and panya group together in order to discuss, and virya and samadhi as a group. Why they need to separate group in this way? Is that a fixed formulation?
Mostly we can say this is our fixed formulation about fixing. If we cannot balance these two, we cannot improve easily. I have already explained before, for about effort and concentration, for example. Also, it can be practical in your meditation. Sometimes you make stronger efforts. The more you make efforts, the more restlessness you have. Similarly, sometimes you have very strong concentrations, but your effort cannot maintain that concentrations. You may fall asleep or you may fall into the Bhanga states. That's very common. That's why we have to fix these two. Okay? Two groups.
For Sukha Vipassana Yanika, when they attain Sotapanna, would they also have Pachavakana Yana? That means, no matter the meditator is a Samatha Yanika or Sukha Vipassana, when they attain Sotapanna, automatically they will have Pachavakana Yana. Is that correct?
Sure, they will have, sure. They will have Pachavakana Yana. Right?
Okay, the next part of the question, why Da Ming Ji? Why this lay person called Maha, what is the Pali terms, when he attains Sotapanna, he does not know by himself.
Mahanama.
Mahanama, okay. Why he
actually,
doesn't know?
Actually, we cannot say he does not know, right? So he just asked question to the Buddha. That's why people misunderstand. He asked question, right? If negligent person passes away, then he will be reborn in the head, something like that. He asked many questions about ordinary people. He asked many questions. That's why people misunderstand. Okay?
If jhana is the overall name for 5 jhana factor, so Upachara Samadhi and Khanika Samadhi, are they considered jhana? And when the Buddha says the real jhana is very near to Nibbana, so this jhana is not only samatha, it is also includes the Khanika Samadhi of Vipassana. This is the first part of the question.
Okay, so that means it will be different. Okay, when we talk about samatha jhana, we call aramanupani jhana. Aramanupani jhana means object scrutiny, absorption on an object. But when we talk about Khanika Samadhi or like Vipassana Samadhi, at the time we can say Lekhanupani jhana, the characteristics scrutiny. That means it will focus on this characteristics of Nama Rupa, something like that. That's why it will be 2 different things. Okay? The Upachara Samadhi case is also Aramanupani jhana, object scrutiny. Okay, next one.
And second part question, can a person discern the arising or perishing of Nama Rupa in Khanika Samadhi in his 4 posture? And yeah, this is second part.
Actually, the way you understand Khanika Samadhi is a little bit complicated, maybe. Now I can realize why you ask this question. So many people misunderstand when we know in any posture or any movement is a Kanika Samadhi. This is commonly people understand like that. Later, actually, in Visuddhimagga, you will find one part about Untitled Chapter. They are mentioned something about Kanika Samadhi. Okay, Kanika Samadhi means entering into jhana, emerging from jhana, descend jhana dhammas. After that, contemplate that as anicca, dukkha, anatta. At the time of practicing vipassana, the Kanika Samadhi arises. That is the way mentioned in Visuddhimagga, Patisambhidamagga, also Samanappasadika commentary. So we can find only 3 sources like that, right? Anyway, Kanika Samadhi is not that simple, not that easy as you understand. The first thing you have to know, right? After that, when we talk about Udayabhaya Jnana, there are many ways to descend Udayabhaya Jnana. In today's Dhamma Talk, I have already explained 25 ways of discernment in arising states, 25 ways of discernment in perishing states. Already mentioned, right? So you can imagine how many other objects, for example, 12 base methods, 80 elements methods. There will be more and more things about Udayabhaya Jnana, right? It's also not that simple as you understand. Okay, next one.
And the third part, at the time of sleeping, knowing at the time of sleeping also means the knowing of the arising and perishing of bhavanga.
Actually, when we are sleeping, we cannot know, right? We cannot know because at the time we are like unconscious person. Okay, like when we are lying down, we can know the objects. When we are sleeping, totally fall asleep, we cannot know any object anymore. Right? Next one.
Translation, Bante. Have you finished with the different
Next
parts
part,
of the question?
for a Putujana, can they attain Pacceka Buddha Jnana, Pacceka Buddha states at the Arupa world?
Arupa what? Pacceka Buddha states?
Means for a Putujana, when they are in the Arupa realm, can they attain Pacceka Buddhahood?
It's impossible, right? It's not the place where the Buddha appear. Pacceka Buddha must be in human realms, not even in Deva realms. Okay. The next one.
For the Jataka 498, Citta Sambhuta Jataka, 2 Kandalas conceal birth and go to Takasila in the disguise of a young Brahmins and study there.
Means if this in the Jataka, it says that the Chandala disguised as a Brahmin or high Brahmins to study in Takasila, would they consider Varanjaka Musawada?
Yeah, sure. Varanjaka Musawada, sure. For the benefit, he cheat people, right?
By the
尊敬的
same.
夏董，小孩修习觉知当下有殊胜体验，说自己是阿罗漢，又不出家，若痴心误判而妄语，属于恶意吗？
If a child, when they practice, when he try to practice and he has special experience, and he say he himself is an arahant, but he doesn't want to ordain as a ordained person. So because of this moha mind, he wrongly decides, wrongly judge his experience, and would they consider musawada? And if they have no bad intention, because of no bad intention, there won't be akusala karma, but his action already misleads other people, and mislead other people to understand the Dhamma wrongly. They will wouldn't that akusala karma and bring about akusala vipaka? This is the first part of the question.
Actually, when he destroys, that means we cannot know his mind also. We cannot say bad intention or good intention in this case, right? So when he talk about wrong dharma to mislead many people, it's already bad. We can say it's also agosala, right? So that means he has to study what's really dharma. Without studying, just guiding many people, this is really destroying the dharma. Without priyati, without puripati, right? Although he say he is a pativeda, this is almost impossible. Okay, next one.
Second part of question: if a bhikkhu through Uttari Manusa Dhamma and give Dhamma talk or preach to the ghost or the deva, or communicate with them, would they consider talking Uttari Manusa Dhamma to the Anupasampanna? And second part, can a person use Upachara Samadhi to communicate with ghosts or deva?
Actually, this is not recommended by the Buddha, right? So if we reveal this kind of things to ordinary, like unordained person, sure, this is also revealing Uttari Manusa Dhamma to lay person. Where do we be a little bit careful? Right? It depends on how he say also.
When the a bhikkhu would want to commit Methuna Dhamma with a woman. So before really committing this action, he disrobed in front of the woman. So 比库对人说的非常。The bhikkhu have clearly mentions to the woman, but the woman say he doesn't know he has disrobed. So in this condition, the woman is purposely want to destroy the bhikkhu. He really heard, but he intentionally say he did not know. She did not know. So would the bhikkhu consider lawfully or rightly disrobed?
Okay, so we have 6 factors for disrobing, right? So it depends on, it will take a little bit longer time to answer this question. For example, the person's mind, whether he really wishes to disrobe or not. This is the first thing. Another one is the what he used. For example, say Kampacha Kami, Dhammapacha Kami, the what he used, right? Then out of that, now that the tense, it must be present tense. That means, but I may disrobe. It's not like that. I'm disrobe. I want to disrobe, or something like that, right? And give up 3 trainings. I give up my upajaya. It should be present tense like that. So another one is prayoga means the actions, or it might be bodily actions. Sorry, it might be bhava actions, not bodily actions, bhava actions. So that only bhava action we can disrobe, right? So this is the one thing. Another thing is the pajanana. The listener must understand clearly, right? So if listener cannot understand, we cannot say disrobing. It depends on the situation, the language he used, the language the listener understands. According to all the situation, we have to change everything, right? So in this case, I cannot decide I'm not the bhikkhu or I'm not that lady. That's why it depends on the situation they have at the time. So maybe he may disrobe properly or he may not disrobe properly. It depends on the what he used and the language he used and the lady understands. Now, the lady also know that he would do disrobe. If the lady know that the bhikkhu wants to disrobe, that's why he is talking, then we can say it's properly disrobing. Just for joking, the lady may think, oh, he's joking. That's sure it's not proper disrobing. Okay, it depends on how they say and how they understand in the situations. Okay.
This question out of the context of meditation. Can she ask? She says, her husband is very lazy. He just live in keep easy in the present condition and doesn't do housework and also only play with the handphone. So because of this, she always have quarrel with her husband. How should she do?
Okay, I'm not life coach. This is a difficult question for me. Anyway, so in our community, if you wish somebody to listen to you, you must speak kindly. Don't quarrel. Right? That means if you are kind enough to explain why you wish him to do something, or right, how you wish him to do something, if you can explain in detail or kindly, it will be more beneficial. Another thing is, this is common in modern society, right? Everywhere they are like watching telephone or like playing the game. This is normal everywhere now. So it will be, I think you cannot control him. Like he's your husband, right? So okay, briefly, if I say like this, your behavior must be good enough to communicate with him, or your speech must be kind enough to communicate with him. Then he will follow you. Then in your mind also, you must have kindness to him. Then he will follow you. If you quarrel a lot, it will get worse. Okay, so more kindness, bodily, verbally, and mentally. It will be easier for you to settle all these situations. Okay, next one.
Sayadaw always mention about this Khanda Ayatana, Dhatu, Indriya, Satya, and Paticcasamuppada. All these are Four Noble Truths, isn't it?
Yeah, so we can say like Four Noble Truths, Four Ultimate Reality, all are the same content, the same things. We have different name, different analysis, different classifications. Okay.
Translate.
When the mind have no energy, the mindfulness cannot arise.
Sure.
Does not have anything, cannot have any efforts to do anything. What shall he do or she do? This is the first question.
Okay. So now in today's Dhamma Talk, we have already talked about enlightenment factors, right? Investigations. This is when we are lazy or when our mind power become very weak, we have to develop the enlightenment factor of Dhamma Vicaya, investigations, Viriya, efforts, and rapture, joy, right? So they are mentioned, okay, I have already mentioned 7 things. You can do one of the 7. For example, like asking anything about meditation. Questioning anything about meditation too. Your friends discussing Dhamma with your friends, something like that. You can regain the strength. Then you can continue meditating.
For a lay person, they are very easily disturbed by all other external factors when they are trying to meditate. He wish to go to a place to meditate, but at the same time, he felt that this action is very, very, very unkind to others. So what to do? During lockdown time, it's easier to meditate. After lockdown, there are many external factors. Then the concentration drops. What to do with that? And after having disappointments to many things, having disappointment to one thing, the mind will become very weak.
Sure.
Then how to adjust the mind?
Okay, so that means you have to accept both good and bad situations in any time. The main thing is that if we don't complain the bad situations, then we have more peacefulness. So everybody has bad situation, right? Then we have to accept bad situation. If we complain again and again, it will get worse, more instability. Okay, let them go. After experiencing bad things, okay, let them go. Don't recall. Don't bring it back. Just keep doing what you have to do. it will be easier for maintenance, for development. Okay.
Vandami Siado Suki Hontu, good evening. Please, Siado, advise what is the meaning of offering body and mind to Buddha? Sadhu. Sadhu.
Actually, here it doesn't mention body and mind, right? Offering himself to the Buddha. Okay, because it's like body and mind, because if we say himself, we mean body, body and mind together already. Okay, anyway, so if we offer when we have fear, when meditating, frightened by something, when fear arises, we have more safety, more security, more confidence. So I have already offered my body to the Buddha, my mind to the Buddha. So we are safe. This is the one thing. Another thing is, okay, this to the Buddha, right? If we offer our body or ourselves to the teacher, that means teacher can guide us. Also, teacher can give us profound teaching, very profound Dhamma, something like that. So we are more close. That means teacher will believe us, believe our ability. That is the one thing we have to know. Okay, in your question, you just mentioned about the Buddha, right? If we offer our body to the Buddha, then we are safe. That's why we have to offer it. Okay.
Vandami Siado, when someone practicing Anapanasati, Parikamma Nimitta and Ukkaha Nimitta, how to differentiate them? What does that mean by Parikaha Nimitta and Ukkaha Nimitta in Anapanasati practice?
Parikamma and Ukkaha?
Yes, Mande. Parikamma and Ukkaha Nimitta.
Okay. In the case of Parikamma, even breath itself is called Parikamma Nimitta. Not only in Anapanasati, in the Kasina also, the earth is also Parikamma Nimitta, right? Already Parikamma Nimitta. So when we talk about Ukkaha Nimitta, it's a little bit brighter. We have the light, bright, a little bit brighter, also a little bit clearer. In this case, we can say Ukkaha Nimitta. Okay, so in Pautoya, we also write, we also have books, right? Booklets. So when we see the gray color, something like that, not very bright, like dim color, then we can say this is a Parikamma Nimitta. When it becomes a bit whiter or brighter, we can say this is a Ukkaha. After that, when it becomes totally bright and stable, we can say this is a Patisambhidamagga Nimitta.
Okay. If he practice the Kammatthana object is Anapanasati, but in daily life he just maintain mindfulness. In order to maintain mindfulness in the breath is very difficult. So in daily life, can he practice the 4 protective Kammatthana? No.
Okay.
No, sorry. In the daily life, it's very hard to focus onto the be mindful onto the breath, and very hard to practice the 4 protective Kammatthana. So can he just maintain Sati Sampajana on the 4 posture?
Actually, I don't recommend that kind of things. There are many things you can do. For example, like a Buddha Nusati, you can do some chanting, or you can also recall Buddha's quality. In this case, it will be okay, right? There are many things to have concentrations. So, okay, you can balance yourself. I don't recommend that kind of things. Okay? For posture, this is, okay. When we talk about Masatipatthana, 4 postures are not that simple. Without knowing ultimate reality, especially without practicing Rupa meditation, we cannot do 4 posture. This is not for beginner, not for the elementary level, right? It must be advanced level.
Vandami Siado. How to remind himself or herself to always be mindful.
Actually, if you have willingness, you can remind. Right? Sometimes unwillingness, you cannot remind that easy. So that means whenever you have wandering thoughts, remind yourself. Whenever you remember, okay, remind yourself to keep knowing breathing. In the very beginning, no consistent. Later, when you can remind continuously, it will become consistent. So you have to build up slowly. It's not one day, right? It will take a little bit longer. It's possible to do it.
Dear Sayadaw, please Sayadaw advise where is the suitable place for meditation at Pa'au Toya branch. Thank you very much.
Okay, I cannot recommend which powder is the best, right? In current situation, I cannot recommend also. Anyway, so I think Mimyo is a better maybe, right? Compared to powder Molamye. Weather is also good, food is also good in Mimyo.
But
when the Miss Sayadaw, if he noticed or she noticed she has broken the precepts, what is the best way or the fastest way to make amendment to make amendment?
Okay, so in this case, according to rule and regulations for bhikkhus, we have to confess. After that, we have to promise we will never make the same mistake again. This is the only way we have to do, right? So sometimes we confess, but we don't promise we will not do again. This is not according to Buddha's teaching. So, okay, briefly, first confess. After that, promise. Make sure I will never make the same mistake again. Then this is the way to cure or amends. Okay, next one.
When the Miss Sayadaw, in the daily life, in the daily life, he always cannot maintain sati sampajana. Can he just practice yoniso manasikara?
Yoniso manasikara. What does it mean, yoniso manasikara? Right? This is also a little bit complicated. We have many different types of yoniso manasikara. So that means as long as you have a wholesome mind, it's okay. Right? This is the best way to live in household life. Okay, next one.
Dear Sayadaw, if we still have wandering thoughts in second jhana and have to apply attention to nimitta again, then in checking jhana factors, we are not sure if we are in first jhana or second jhana, because not sure if vitakka or vichara exists or not. How to solve this problem?
Actually, when you have wandering thoughts, you are not in jhana anymore, right? You have already dropped out. So when you can regain your concentration, that means when your mind is unstable up and down, sometimes first jhana, sometimes second jhana, it can be like that. When you have consistent awareness, no more thoughts, so you can maintain in the second jhana. In this case, we don't have any other solution. Just trying to maintain the second jhana, right? If you can maintain well, then you can check the jhana factors. Then you can also know only 3 jhana factors.
Dear Sayadaw, in the first jhana, once we applied our attention to the nimitta and sustain the attention by resting on it, we don't need to do vitakka and vichara all the time. Then what is the reason we can find the jhana factor, vitakka and vichara after we get out of the first jhana?
Actually, in the first jhana, I have already said jhana factors are working together to know the objects, right? So in the second jhana, you don't need vitakka vichara. That means although you are knowing the objects naturally, that means all the jhana factors are working properly. It depends on the skill. When you become skillful, they will work properly. Then you can know the object continuously. It doesn't mean you don't have applying thoughts. From time to time, right? That means mostly, from time to time, when your concentration becomes weak, you have to apply again and again. So anyway, the main thing is, in the first jhana, whether you know or not, when you are focused on the nimitta, you cannot know the jhana factors. If you know jhana factors, this means you are not in jhana. So when you emerge from it, you can check jhana factors. At the time, you can know which jhana you are entering. This is only revealed knowledge. Similarly, in the second jhana also, when you are focusing on the nimitta, you cannot know jhana factors. If you know jhana factors, you're not in the jhana. Okay? So you cannot know how it's working. You cannot know what they are working. You cannot know like that. You just know the nimitta. Very simple things. So now the question is a little bit complicated, right? Then what? Next part.
Sayadaw, if I focus on the meditation object all the time, my mind gets tightened and loses interest in the object. What shall I do at this time? Meditate less? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So, sure, after, that means meditation subjects are not colorful, right? It's not interesting. This is normal for everyone. After meditating for one subject very long time, no more interest, this is normal. Now, one more thing is, if we know the benefits of meditation, there will be more interest. So from time to time, when you have no more interest, you can also do other things, such as Visuddhimagga or Buddhanussati or something like that. More interesting things. I'd rather come back to the breath. It will be easier for you, right? This means temporarily you can change objects. Ita vada ja amehi sambadam bunya sambadam sabbe deva numodandu sabbe buddha numodandu sabbe saddha numodandu sabba sambati siriya idam me nyadinam hodu sukhita hondu nyadayo idam me nyadinam hodu sukhita hondu nyadayo idam me nyadinam hodu Sukhita hondu nyadayo idam me bunyam asavakaya waham hodu idam me bunyam nibbanasa patiyo hodu mama bunya bhagam sabba sadanam bhajami te sabbe me samam bunya bhagam labandu sadhu sadhu sadhu.